Hey guys, it's Dan from Torr Overland. So today I want to be talking about electric, and specifically electric in classic Defenders and those types of conversions. So why, you might be asking, why am I going to be talking about that when I'm usually dealing with dirty diesels and basic TDI engines or big petrol V8s? All of those are great, but I'm also interested in electric too. So you may recall from a previous video that I've done when I was talking about living with my Discovery 4 that we also have an electric car as a family. So that's something which my wife primarily uses a bit more than me, and it's suited us really well because we can charge at home, and because of that we're able to lean on sort of those cheaper rates and prices and things. So we know what it's like to live with an electric car. We're into it, we like it, and this year I really wanted to start understanding what that actually means. What's involved? Is it good? Is it not? What's it like off-roading? And I want to take you back to earlier this year in May time, where I had the opportunity to meet up with Moggy of Electric Classic Cars. So you may have seen him, he's got his own YouTube channel. He's also featured on things like Fifth Gear and other big motoring shows. And he's been doing this in his business for a good amount of time now, sort of a good number of years. And I had the privilege to spend a whole day with him exploring his backyard in mid-Wales, so around Elan Valley and around that kind of region, which was fantastic. And he came along in his converted 90. So this is one of the earlier conversions that he's done. It's his own vehicle, he uses it, and he uses it hard. So he takes it off-road and gets the most of it. And there's no one better out there to understand not only what's involved with turning your classic Defender into an electric one, but also how to use it off-road. Can you? Is it any good when it goes into water? Can it? What's it like with scrabbling up rocks? And here as well, we're in mid-Wales here, and this is a real scraggly bit. It's really hard to tell in video just how steep it is, but as we're going up this section, having no issue at all, and as it's going in and out of focus, you'll see there's a bit of a rock step here. Moggy's driving at this point. He decided speed is your friend, and absolutely no problem, fires itself up. And here I managed to get a chance to go behind the wheel as we're going by. Had a little chat with someone who just sort of had harder work cycling up there, but even they made the comment there just how quiet it was. And also something which is really nice about electric is because you don't have any of those tailpipe emissions as well. So when you're stop starting, which you do a lot in off-roading and 4x4 driving, then you're not having to inhale all these nasty fumes, which is actually really quite nice. I mean, it's also worth saying the disco does look good, doesn't it? I think as we're going through. I mean, it's such a beautiful part of the UK. And here, a bit of fun, just in some tracks, getting a bit of speed up. It's like when we went in May, it was actually really dry. So some of these sections where usually there'd be much more standing water for us to contend with, there was not very much at all. Also just to give you an idea with his Defender 90, this has been used in some of these TV shows and things because it's obscenely quick. It's got, I think it's, don't quote me exactly, but I'm pretty sure it's got around 600 horsepower because it's utilising a Tesla Model S motor.
Right, let's see what this thing can do 0 to 60. Specialist timing gear here. I'm just going to floor the throttle, see what we get. Let's do it. Oh, crap! 3.95!
And also in his one, he's got a large battery pack. I can't remember exactly what the kilowatt hours are he has in that, but the range and things were pretty good. But it meant that it just had an obscene amount of power. And if you know about electric, or one of those basic things is, you basically have instant power, instant torque. And these are things which you can use in a number of ways, from if you want to go and just how fast can you go to 0 to 60, that's where electric cars are so good. But bringing it back to the Land Rover world, and more specifically going off-road, what are they actually like? And this is where I think the power of electric in many ways is a superior drivetrain to a conventional engine. And I'll tell you why. You don't have to worry about gear changes. And like, yes, you know, my Disco 4, it's an automatic. I don't need to worry about gear changes. You've got instant power if you want. You've got endless adjustability in terms of how you map that power or different modes if you want. You've got that form of brake regen as well, which can effectively take the place of engine braking that you would use. And there's no need to have any type of low range, high range. You effectively just have one gear. That's all you need. And then when it comes to things like, do you want to have lockable diffs or just LSDs or open diffs, any of those things, that's all the same type of technology that you'd be utilizing in your conventional combustion engine anyway. So you've got those choices there. Now it's fair to say, going off-road in Moggy's Defender, it was more than capable. If anything, I'm pretty sure it would go in places and do things which my Disco 4 wouldn't be able to do. I mean, yes, it's going to be a lot lighter than me, and also going over on that point as well, lightness, and you know, that's always something which is thrown at electric cars. They're always much heavier. Yes, to a point if we're talking of a little hatchback type of car, but when we're talking of big 4x4s and SUVs and things of that ilk, they're heavy anyway. So when you've got those battery packs, there's usually not much disparity at all. And I know, talking to Moggy and others who have had their Defenders converted, quite often they come out slightly lighter once they've removed the old gearbox and engine and fitted the new electric motor and battery pack. Yeah, you're actually making a little bit of a saving. So there's no real trade-off there, or you know, sort of losing out in terms of that weight. We also had at one of our recent day tours down here in Devon, one of the guests that came in their Defender 90, which had been converted by the guys at Electric Car Converts. And it was really interesting to see up close as well with this one, and I was having to guide them with some of these sections as we're going off on these off-road parts here. And again, just how capable it was. And I think one of the overriding things which just comes across, particularly when we've got a sea of sort of diesel Land Rovers, so Defenders and our Disco 4, is just how quiet it is. You're just hearing the whirring of the gears and transmission, but also there's just no smell, which is really nice in these situations. And also where we're driving here, this is actually a little bit of actual rainforest down in Devon, and you get some great sounds from the wildlife and the running water. These are all things which are a little bit harder to hear when you've got the hum of the engine just ticking over. Something in the electric you just don't get. So that is something which I really do personally like. And what about the battery performance and range and things like that? Because that's almost one of the first questions when people talk about electric cars, is how far can you go? And you know, it's a valid question. But when it comes to off-roading, there's actually this really interesting thing which goes on where, compared to a conventional combustion engine, off-roading it's almost at its most efficient, to be honest, because we're going at slower speeds, so the air resistance has less of an impact on range and things like that. And also because you're going up and down, particularly those downhill sections, quite often there's an element of regeneration going on, which may be just even giving back a little bit of power into the battery, or certainly not using nearly as much. So what we were finding, particularly that day with Moggy, I had used maybe a quarter of a tank on the amount of driving that we'd done, which ended up being maybe 40, 50 miles, but we were talking about 6-7 hours of just constant driving off-road. And on his electric car, it used up maybe about a quarter of the battery, so not very much at all for a whole day's off-roading. So it's fair to say, if you're going up for a whole long weekend of off-roading, let's say in Wales, if you're starting with a pretty full battery when you're starting an off-road section, you're going to be able to last that whole time without any issue. It is a valid question in terms of getting up there. Yeah, I mean, electric cars, they're not as efficient when you're going on highway journeys and things like that. That's something we found in our electric car. But you can get around that. It's not too much of a problem. So I'd be interested to know what you guys think in terms of electric and Land Rovers and converting. And I can imagine for a lot of you it's almost blasphemy, the idea of converting some of these classics into it. And I get that argument too, because I do love a beautiful sounding combustion engine, which an electric motor is never going to offer, but it offers something different and in some ways can be better, but certainly no less. I'd also highly recommend, if you want to learn a bit more about what's in some of these electric cars, particularly some of these which I've shown here, so the one with Moggy and also the guest who came on one of our Devon tours, then take a look at Jerome and his Outrun YouTube channel. So he's got some walk around videos with both of those particular Land Rovers and talking around. I've also got a few other things lined up or in the pipeline when it comes to electric and Defenders and things like that. It's just something I'm interested in. It's also something, if I had the money, I would be very interested in having one myself, not instead of a disco, but certainly as well as, and it's something which would suit me particularly well for a Devon tour, because range would be not an issue whatsoever, but then you genuinely have a vehicle which is just as capable, but is better in some ways, because we're not going to be polluting the environment whilst we drive around. It's going to be quieter, so I can enjoy the sounds around me, but also I can hear what's going on in terms of people who might be attending for those tours as well, which would be really useful. And what about the cost of converting your car to electric? It's not cheap. It's quite a big undertaking. And also you need to be working with people or getting people on board who know what they're doing and are fully qualified to work with electric vehicles. It is something you potentially could do yourself, but you would need to go on some level of training course, I'd suggest, so you can do it safely, because you are dealing with very high voltage, which can be lethal. It was really interesting talking with the guest who came on our recent Devon tour and looking at what he'd done. So he'd had his Defender 90 for a good amount of time, and what I really liked was it had that patina of just a nice beat up farm truck, and I loved that. And he decided that this is a thing that they want to keep in their family forevermore, and what can they do to prolong its life and also keep it quite interesting to them. So he decided to invest in getting it converted into electric. But what I particularly loved with that one is he just left the entire exterior as it was. So it's on a nice galvanized chassis, so that's nice and strong. But it wasn't some super shiny and blingy Defender, so which had been renovated and reconditioned. It was just an honest truck. So as always guys, thank you so much for watching my video, and I hope you found this one a bit interesting, because not many people are talking about electrics in Land Rovers, particularly the classic ones, and off-roading, and I think it's a really interesting subject which I'm looking forward to learning some more on. Anyway, until the next time, cheers.